The fallout of that hostile exchange between U.S. and Ukrainian leaders in the Oval Office yesterday. I'm joined by Democratic Congresswoman from New Mexico, Melanie Stansbury. Welcome, Congresswoman. I'm glad to talk with you about this. A White House official tells NBC News that direct negotiations between the Trump administration and Ukraine are now on hold. How concerning is that to you? And what was your reaction to that whole episode?
Well, obviously, I think we are all just completely shocked, gobsmacked, disgusted. I mean, I've never seen a more disgraceful display and lack of American patriotism and support for our international allies. And frankly, they look like a bunch of frat boys harassing one of our closest international allies. This is catastrophic for the United States. Over the last several weeks, we knew that Donald Trump was going to cozy up to Putin. But what he and his administration have done is a complete reordering of international affairs. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we saw at the Munich Security Conference that our vice president went on the world stage. He undermined our European allies. He undermined Western democracy, and he endorsed far-right German political parties in the midst of their parliamentary elections while they're cozying up to Putin. And now this is dangerous. It's taking the United States in a position that is making our country weaker. And frankly, it's going to make our country less safe, not just globally, but here in the United States.
All right. Thank you for sharing all that. I do want to get to your position as top Democrat on the House DOGE subcommittee. So let's get to the developments on that front, as federal workers are getting emails again demanding they list accomplishments this last week. And if they don't respond, it'll be viewed as a resignation. But instead of the email coming from the Office of Personnel Management, it was going to come directly from agency heads, and that would suggest the administration is getting a somewhat better grip on how to get DOGE initiatives done without circumventing the law. But many of these emails were again from OPM. What's going on here? And should federal employees be worried?
Well, I mean, it's very clear that the Trump administration does not believe in the rule of law. And the courts were very clear this week that OPM does not have the authority to hire, fire, and to make these kind of demands from agency staff. But they are continuing to do this. And in fact, it's our understanding that many of the agency heads and cabinet secretaries were even unaware that Elon Musk was going to send the first couple of emails and tweet that he did last week asking for these bullet points. But we know the administration is breaking federal law every single day with these demands. They're breaking personnel laws, they're breaking separation of powers laws, they're breaking authorization and appropriations laws in Congress. But the DOJ is part of the administration and they are not holding them accountable. And so we're having to bring suits through the states and nonprofits to stop them, to get emergency injunctions against the administration and stop these illegal activities. And we're going to have to continue to do so. And myself and the members of the Democratic caucus are fighting back in Congress. We're fighting back in the courts, and we're fighting back in our communities.
And also at a DOGE subcommittee hearing this week, you reiterated your call for Elon Musk to testify before the committee. What questions do you have for him?
Well, I think we have endless questions for Mr. Musk. I mean, first of all, what is he up to? What is his long-term vision for the federal government? What is he trying to accomplish? You know, he says that his primary goal is to make the government more efficient and to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. But the only receipts that he has posted so far don't even add up. His math doesn't math. This guy is not providing any transparency about what he's doing, and he's now self-dealing. He gave himself an FAA contract, and we're hearing from agencies that there's talk about him giving himself AI contracts to quote unquote modernize these agencies. To me, this looks like a heist. It looks like he's looting the federal government. They're laying off workers. They're dismantling agencies. And far from saving money, they're planning to reallocate that money to give himself private contracts.
I want to play part of your statements. It was at the end of that subcommittee meeting on Wednesday to federal workers and those affected by DOGE's cuts. Here we go.
We are in the courts, we are in Congress, we are in our communities, and we will hold this administration accountable. And we will not abandon our allies or our humanity. So with that, I say to all of you, be strong. We will fight back.
I now recognize myself for closing remarks. And threats against the President of the United States will not be tolerated by anyone.
Is that what that was? Were your comments an intended threat?
Well, I find it comical. And, you know, at the moment that the chairwoman gavelled down, there were claps from the audience, I think, because there was a number of federal workers in the audience. But right before that statement, I pointed out and I directed my statement directly to Mr. Trump, which is I said that 250 years ago, we rejected a abusive king in this country and that we're not going back. And that's just the reality. In fact, every school child who has ever taken American history is taught that. It is part of our culture. And so while Donald Trump likes to play king in the Oval Office, whether it's diminishing our foreign allies or it's tweeting and calling himself a king and undermining the separation of powers, Americans are not going to stand for it. And we're not going to be intimidated by threats by our colleagues or by the administration, because this is our country and our democracy. And we're going to continue to do everything in our power to push back, to fight back, and to protect our communities.
New Mexico Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, this is a great conversation. We'll see you again. Thank you.